It's my deep pleasure to introduce the speaker today, Reverend Dr. Michael Milner. The native Hawaiians in the Huna tradition always talk about addressing the energy first, and then the details make sense and fit into that. I can attest to feeling an incredible, warm, and loving energy when Michael and his lovely wife Suzanne and the assistant Susan came in the building yesterday. I immediately knew they were family that we just hadn't met yet, and they just put a wonderful spirit in this place. He had an incredible workshop yesterday with about 30 people, and it just raised the roof. It felt wonderful. I am going to tell you a few details about him, some of his background. Michael Milner has been for at least 40 years a spiritual teacher and counselor and an interfaith minister in the Taoist and the Christian tradition. He also embodies diverse spiritual traditions, also including like Hindu, Buddhist, and more. What he likes to do is help people from many paths to their awakening, to who they really are, and to that love that lives in them, through them, and as them. And so it's so wonderful to meet more family, and we're so honored to have him here today. He and his wife Suzanne co-direct the Flowering Heart International Holistic Spiritual Center in Clearwater, Florida. So if you're ever in Florida, that's a good place, a home away from home, to visit. Michael will be doing another workshop this afternoon at 2, and you can let them know about that during your talk. And so anyone who can come back for that, I certainly highly recommend it. So with no further ado, let's give him a warm fellowship welcome.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
How do you get so cold here? I'm from Florida. Yeah. I'm used to going barefoot and wearing shorts. A few days ago I was on the beach in my shorts. But here we are. Oh, what a wonderful fellowship you have. Actually, I've been here before. It was more than 5 years ago. And I'm getting a little feedback. Can I just move it away? I probably don't even really need a microphone, but okay. All right. So a little over 5 years ago, I don't know exactly when it was. I don't know if you remember either. I was here and shared something called the Oneness Meditation, which is a silent, open-eye transmission of divine presence and grace. And I guess today I stand here representing the Pathless path. That's what I would call it now. Definitely I am an interfaith minister and work with people from all different paths. And you know, this place is so amazing, and you have such an amazing history. 50 years ago, well, I guess this fellowship began when? Maybe 45. It's 1972, I think, about then. You guys were really oddballs back then, right? Still are. I mean, we like to think of ourselves as oddballs too, but you know, now there's a real global shift in consciousness taking place. And I know sometimes it doesn't look like it because the world's in all kinds of conflict and crisis. But you know, shifting and awakening and transformation often involves crisis. And so that's what we're seeing. Everything we're seeing happening in the world around us that can be discouraging right now is because in the process of awakening, we get to take a look at everything going on inside of us. And the outer world's a reflection of the inner world. So everything that's going on out there is actually a reflection of what's going on inside of us. But all too often we say, oh, it's that group or it's that person out there that's the problem. We're all creating it together. And in the process of getting through all the messes we're facing on planet Earth, we're going to get to look on the inside and own our role collectively in creating it. But fortunately, All of this is just birth pains of a shift in the collective consciousness of humanity. And what we're in the process of doing is moving from a global civilization that's rooted in competition, conflict, and violence into a new world rooted in cooperation and harmony and peace. That's pretty radical. And the idea of competition is so deeply ingrained in us, sometimes we don't even see it. I mean, most of us, even spiritual people, tend to praise our children for competitive behavior. I mean, it starts with, games in the playground and sports and in school. If you outdo the other kids, if you come out on top, that's the way to go. And that carries over into career and business and war. And it's been going on for all of human history. The whole civilization on this planet is rooted in competition. And we've been told that our greatest discoveries scientifically and otherwise have grown out of conflict and competition. Well, that's changing. But it's only going to change to a whole new world of cooperation, harmony, and peace when enough people wake up and their hearts begin to flower with unconditional love. And that's what's happening. And that's why we're not quite so weird anymore. We're still weird. And incidentally, I think weird's good. I learned that growing up in my family, that normal is boring. And weird is kind of cool. So we really are in the right family. But there are countless millions of people all over the world today who are awakening to oneness with the divine presence within them, with the divine spark at the center of their hearts. And not just to oneness with the universe, but to oneness with the divine within. And that is hugely significant. Because, to us that's just, that's what we've been thinking that way and experiencing that for a long, long time, haven't we? A lot of us. But that's really new to so many people, to experience the divine at all. People are experiencing the divine presence outside of the box of belief systems and religious ideologies. People are just spontaneously experiencing this presence of pure love and discovering that it's radiating from the inside of them. In the world of religion, even in the world of spirituality, a lot of us have been giving our power away for a long time, projecting our brightness, our inner light, on a great spiritual teacher or a guru or some enlightened being. And there are probably more enlightened teachers on this planet today than at any other time in human history that we're aware of, which is really pretty cool. That's a good sign. But all of those awakened beings, the brightness, the light we see radiating from them is just a mirror, reflecting to us our own inner light. We wouldn't even be able to see it shining out of them unless it was a reflection of something inside of us, because the outer world is just a reflection of the inner world. In fact, I like to say there is no out there. It's all inside of you. Everything is inside of you. But people are awakening more and more, just all over the place, serendipitously, for no good reason. There are these wonderful processes and spiritual communities and teachings and practices and transmissions like the Oneness Blessing and one we share now called the Flowering Heart Blessing, which really focuses on this very thing, awakening in people the experience, the direct experience of the divine presence within them in the center of their hearts, and igniting, catalyzing the beginning of a like a supernova, really, an outshining of that light from the inside out, which is causing tremendous transformation. The flowering of the spiritual heart of humanity is just a reality. And it's bringing genuine compassion and unconditional love and transforming us actually into a whole new species of being. And I'm starting to hear that more and more. Just out of curiosity, how many, I know everybody's heard about the transformation of a caterpillar into a butterfly. We all know what metamorphosis is. But how many of you heard that explanation from a scientific point of view and the role of imaginal cells in the transformation of a caterpillar? This is something that Deepak Chopra, I think, brought forth a few years ago. Have any of you heard that? A few of you have. Not enough of you that I'm not going to give you a light brush of that, because it's such a powerful metaphor for what's happening on Earth today. The caterpillar basically eats itself to death. I mean, it doesn't just, weave a cocoon and go for a nice nap and grow wings. And it's not exactly like that. The caterpillar it consumes so much that it just can't go on. And it spins the cocoon all right, but within the cocoon, everything breaks down. It is essentially eaten to the point that its immune system becomes neutralized. Which is really kind of interesting, because humanity has so overconsumed on this planet that we've kind of worn out our niche unless we transform. And one of the things we see happening is the human immune system is so challenged. Now, up to this point, the immune system of the caterpillar could keep in check these things called imaginal cells. When I first heard the term imaginal cell, I thought, that's got to be something somebody made up. That's not a scientific term at all, but it is. And all species have within them imaginal cells, which are cells that hold the blueprint for future evolution and adaptation, for transformation. Everybody's got them. We've all got them in our bodies. All species of animals have imaginal cells that have a blueprint for what if we had the opportunity to transform. And the job of the immune system is to hunt them down and kill them, because they would ruin the status quo. I mean, who knows what we'd turn into if the imaginal cells had their way. So in the human world, these were people like Mahatma Gandhi, Jesus Christ, and not just, Martin Luther King Jr., anyone who challenges the status quo with awareness, the human collective unconsciousness, like some dark immune system, has hunted down the imaginal cells and snuffed them. Still, look, you couldn't put out the light of a being like Christ. You couldn't put out the light of an example like Mahatma Gandhi left the world, and so many other luminaries. But, okay, back to the caterpillar. So here's this cocoon, and inside the cocoon is not a slumbering caterpillar, but a biological soup. And the immune system is no longer working. So the imaginal cells go, this is our chance. And they begin to multiply. They begin to multiply, and there are so many of them now in this soup, you couldn't stop them if you had some strategic plan to try. And that's true of humanity now, where there was just, a Christ here and a Buddha there and a Gandhi over here. There are so many awakened beings on this planet now, with the blueprint actually at work unfolding for ascension and transformation into a new species of being, that it's impossible to stop. Even if you had the apocalyptic notion of the armies of the Antichrist, which isn't going to happen, But there would be no way. I don't care what kind of oppressive force was raised on earth. You couldn't stop the imaginal cells now. There are too many. And it's contagious. You just get around people like us and you catch the bug. And you start to light up and transform, and there's no way to stop that. So back to the caterpillar, the imaginal cells have multiplied just completely off the charts. And then they begin to cluster together in communities. They form little clusters of imaginal cells. And there are spiritual communities like that happening everywhere. I mean, we're nurturing our Flowering Heart community is partially online, and we have people that fellowship with us all over the world. I mean, Russia, China, Indonesia, places that were very hard to connect with spiritually a few years ago, and people from all different traditions. I mean, these spiritual communities that are forming now represent people from diverse backgrounds and people that have no spiritual backgrounds at all. They're part of the new paradigm, and they're being drawn together. So we see that happening with humanity too, all over the place. Very creative and beautiful little spiritual communities emerging. Then the little clusters of imaginal cells start to network with each other. And that's also happening. That's one of the beautiful side effects. There's so many not so beautiful side effects of the internet. But one of the beautiful outcomes of the internet is that we're able to connect with directly and easily people all over the world. There's no boundary, there's no national or ideological boundary that can keep us from directly connecting. And not just through social media, but when we connect, we're sharing energy, we're meditating together, we're channeling grace to the world and to each other. And so that network of imaginal cells inside of the cocoon becomes now a whole new reality. And in a very short time, a whole new creature emerges from that cocoon. And a butterfly is not just a caterpillar with wings, which would be pretty bizarre. It's totally different. Its metabolism is different. The genes that are firing in it are different. Its DNA has actually shifted. It was all there in potential, but there were genes that weren't firing. And different genes sort of went to sleep, and some that had been asleep started firing full on. And we've heard, humanity's got all this junk DNA that really isn't doing anything. Sort of like your appendix, who needs it? Well, we're going to find out that all that's been in us all along, and as that DNA starts to come online, we're going to be transformed as radically as the transformation of a caterpillar into a butterfly. So what comes out the other end, of course, we know there's a lot of struggle for that butterfly to break out of the cocoon. And as much as you'd like to help it, if you try to assist it, you end up killing it, because it develops strength. And part of the transformation occurs in the struggle to break out. So that's what we're going through. That's why we're going through so much stuff. It's all part of the plan. But what's going to come out the other end? We are going to be so transformed, not just in our consciousness, but physically. We will be as different from what human beings look like and are now as a butterfly is different from a caterpillar. We can't imagine. It's going to take some time. Some of the great enlightened masters and seers I know see it taking several hundred more years for that physical transformation to be completed. And a lot of us who are, here I am, with my white hair, and I reached AARP age years ago. And I like it to really speed up. But the good news is that in the course of the next millennium, humanity is actually going, and it may be much faster, is going to be actually transformed into a whole new form of life that we've all been dreaming about that the ancients that we know about way back when, prehistory, had those graces and those abilities at work. But this isn't just recycling into a new golden age that's going to be lost again. This species is transforming. We either transform or we go extinct. That's the way it is. That's the way the Tao works in nature. And we're transforming. It can't be stopped now. That is really incredibly exciting. And all of us are invited to be agents of change and grace. Catalytic sparks. It's unbelievable the power that the divine is actually offering to flow through us now. And I don't mean the kind of power we could manipulate or be weird and be seduced by our psychic gifts and want to become cult leaders and all that. This is the grace that comes from surrender and dissolving in oneness with the divine within and the divine taking over. The level of energy and grace that is being released through people is amazing. And you don't have to join a group. You don't have to go halfway around the world and go through some expensive initiation and 6 months in a cave or anything like that. It's available to anyone, anytime, anywhere. A degree of the outpouring of divine grace that hasn't been seen before. And it's happening now. And it's totally free. No strings attached. You don't have to sign anything, believe anything, or change anything. Just say, here I am, use me. And the divine will turn you into a gushing, a geyser of divine grace to spread this very contagious catalytic presence that's transforming humanity. Very exciting. I've been involved in spiritual work actually full-time over 45 years now, and I've never seen a time like this. It is so exciting. So this afternoon, that's actually what we're going to be touching on, is the flowering heart path. As people begin, as their hearts begin to flower because they're directly experiencing the divine, it's going to be an end to the conflict between religions and ideologies. I mean, I remember being in India when I was sitting in this room with all these other people, and there was the high Wiccan priestess from Berkeley, and there was a Presbyterian pastor from Indianapolis. She was baptized in the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues and healing everything that moved. And there was a Catholic monk, and there was a Buddhist monk, and there was a Hindu, and there's a Belgian college professor, became a really good friend of mine. I didn't know because we weren't talking at this time. I didn't know till later he was an atheist. And I went, what? How's that possible? And he said, well, look, we are directly experiencing the ground of being. We're experiencing this one conscious source and presence out of which everything is emerging. I don't see why you need to call that God. Okay. I get it. But the point is that none of us, as we're sitting there dissolved in the presence in this meditation hall, there was nothing to say to each other. There was no longer a conflict. We came from radically different ideologies. There were Orthodox Jews in the room and Muslims in the same room together, with fervent Christians of all stripes and Hindus and Buddhists. And we're just all looking at each other and in love with each other and drooling in the presence. And I saw then the end to global religious conflict. I saw it in a microcosm, and I've seen it unfolding ever since. So that's the good news, because we know that it's that kind of conflict between ideologies that's been destroying our planet. It goes beyond religion. Humans come up with a great idea. What if we just renounced personal ownership and shared everything? Isn't that a great idea? But let's force people to do it at the end of a gun is not such a great idea, right? So we've come up with these great philosophies and great ideas through history. And some of our religious teachers, great teachers, but we haven't known how to share it. how to get other people to grab a hold and join us. Now it's just a matter of the contagion giving you the bug of experiencing the divine presence within. And suddenly, we're all family. We've known each other forever. We share the same DNA, the same blood. We're family. All of us humans. And it's becoming a reality. So at that point, when your heart really begins to flower like that, you're on a pathless path. There's no following some old code of teachings or directives. Everybody is unique in this way. Every one of us has the blueprint for a unique path. We're 7+ billion weirdos embodying the same being. There's this one divine being expressing itself, right, through all of us in a unique way. And as we all become, established in that, we won't be insecure about someone else's path seeming to be different in some way from our own. And we'll have the confidence to follow our own path. So anyway, we'll be sharing about that in our 3-hour workshop this afternoon. If some of you could join us, that would be great. But even if you can't, wow. It's happening anyway, and here we are. So, just let me close by just sharing a little blessing. And if you're a fountainhead of divine blessing yourself, I see them all over the room, just join me. Let's close our eyes and ask the divine presence to flood every person in this room with exactly what they need. Exactly what each and every person is able to receive and needs today. And just allow. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been wonderful being here.